I will have that war settled in 24 hours. One day. Donald Trump's promise. Repeated at every rally, every interview, every speech. 24 hours to end a war that's killed hundreds of thousands. A war that's lasted 1,000 days. Is it possible, or is it campaign talk? In 11 days, Trump becomes president. And Ukraine is watching. Russia is waiting. Europe is nervous, because behind closed doors, negotiations are already happening. Not public, not official, but very, very real. Trump's team, Putin's intermediaries, and 3 possible scenarios. Scenario 1, the frozen conflict. Ukraine keeps fighting, but the war never officially ends. Scenario 2, the Land-for-NATO deal. Ukraine trades territory for security. Scenario 3, the immediate freeze. Fighting stops tomorrow. Details figured out later. Only one will happen, and the decision is being made right now. Today, we're breaking down all 3 scenarios. What each means for Ukraine, Russia, and America. Which one Trump will actually choose, and why this decision will reshape Europe for the next 50 years. Let's begin. Welcome to Battlefield Insights. This analysis is based on Trump transition team statements, Kremlin diplomatic signals, Zelensky's public positions, and European intelligence assessments. We're not guessing. We're analyzing the 3 scenarios actually being discussed behind closed doors right now. We'll examine each scenario's pros and cons. Who wins? Who loses? And critically, which is most likely based on Trump's actual negotiating history, Putin's red lines, and Ukraine's survival needs. 8 retention hooks. 0 speculation. Subscribe because this is the most important geopolitical decision of 2025.
Scenario 1. The frozen conflict. Think Korea. 1953, the Korean War ended, except it didn't. No peace treaty, just a ceasefire. 70 years later, armies still face each other across the DMZ. Could Ukraine become Europe's Korea? A frozen conflict where the guns fall silent but no one signs peace? Here's how it works. Ceasefire announced. Both sides stop shooting. The current front line, roughly 20% of Ukraine under Russian control, becomes the de facto border. No treaty, no recognition, just silence. Ukraine rebuilds the 80% it controls. Russia fortifies what it conquered. A new Iron Curtain cuts through Europe. The pros? Fighting stops immediately. Ukrainians stop dying. Ukraine survives as a nation, controls Kyiv, Lviv, Odessa. Europe stabilizes. Energy prices drop. Reconstruction begins. But the cons? Ukraine loses 20% of its territory, potentially forever. No NATO membership because there's still a territorial dispute. And Russia keeps its gains. Putin can claim victory. Who wins in this scenario? Russia keeps Donbas, Crimea, and the land bridge. That's a win. Ukraine survives, but divided and weakened. That's survival, not victory. Europe gets stability but accepts Russian conquest. And Trump? He gets to say, I stopped the killing. A political win even if it's not a real solution. From Trump's perspective, this works. He promised to end the war. Mission accomplished. He doesn't care about territorial integrity. He cares about the deal. And a frozen conflict is a deal, but here's the problem. Neither side wants this. Zelenskyy can't accept permanent loss of Ukrainian land. Putin wants full recognition of his conquests. A frozen conflict satisfies no one. History proves these don't resolve. Look at Cyprus, divided since 1974. Still no solution. Or look at Korea, 70 years still technically at war. Frozen conflicts don't thaw, they become permanent. So while this scenario is possible, I'd give it 35% chance, it's deeply unsatisfying. Which is why there's a more controversial option being discussed. One that trades land for something Ukraine desperately needs, security. Which is why there's a more controversial option being discussed. One that trades land for something Ukraine desperately needs, security.
Scenario 2. Land-for-NATO. The grand bargain. The deal Trump actually wants. Here's how it works. Ukraine formally gives up the territories Russia currently controls. Donetsk, Luhansk, Crimea, the land bridge. In exchange, the remaining 80% of Ukraine gets immediate NATO membership. Full security guarantee. Article 5 protection. Full security guarantee. Article 5 protection. Article 5 means if Russia attacks again, It's war with America, with Britain, with France, Germany, Poland, the entire alliance. That's the trade. Land you've already lost for security you've never had. For Zelenskyy, this is an impossible choice. Give up Ukrainian territory, permanently recognize Russian conquest, in exchange for saving what's left. Give up Ukrainian territory, permanently recognize Russian conquest, in exchange for saving what's left. From Ukraine's perspective, it's surrender disguised as compromise. They lose 20% of their country, millions of citizens, and massive industrial capacity. But they gain survival. No more war. No more Russian invasion threat. Ever. From Putin's perspective, he keeps his conquests, but NATO expands to Russia's border. He wins the territory, but loses the strategic buffer. It's a Pyrrhic victory. Europe would fracture over this. Germany and France might accept it. They want the war over, energy prices down. But Poland, the Baltics, furious. They'd see it as appeasement, rewarding Russian aggression. The alliance would split between those who want peace and those who want justice. But here's why this is the most likely scenario. 45% chance. It's classic Trump deal-making. Look at the Abraham Accords. Israel got normalized relations with UAE. UAE got advanced weapons. Palestinians got nothing. But it worked, because both main parties got something. Same here. Ukraine gets NATO, Russia gets land. Both can claim victory to their people. The problem? Ukraine might not accept it. Mass protests. No land for peace rallies filling Kyiv's streets. Zelenskyy could be overthrown if he agrees to this. And then what? The deal collapses. Which brings us to the third scenario. The one Trump might actually try first. The immediate freeze. And it's the riskiest of all. This is the scenario Trump wants. But there's one more option. The riskiest. The one that could restart the war tomorrow.
Scenario 3. The immediate freeze. Trump's fantasy scenario. Day 1, January 20th, 2025. First phone call, Putin. Stop shooting. Second call, Zelenskyy. Stop shooting. Both sides agree. Ukraine needs American aid. Russia needs sanctions relief. The guns fall silent. Trump declares victory. I ended the war in 24 hours, just like I promised. Sounds great, right? Except there's no agreement, no terms, no borders defined, no security guarantees, just silence. And within weeks, reality hits. Who controls the disputed territories? Where exactly is the line? What about prisoners? What about war crimes? None of it is resolved. You've stopped the shooting without solving the war. Here's what happens. Russian troops stay in position. Ukrainian troops stay in position. They're facing each other, sometimes mere meters apart. No buffer zone, no peacekeepers. One accidental shot, one nervous soldier, one misunderstood order, and the whole thing collapses. The ceasefire breaks. The war restarts. Except now, both sides blame Trump. From Trump's perspective, this is perfect. Day 1 headline: Trump ends Ukraine war. He keeps his promise, gets his win. The fact that it might collapse in a month? That's February Trump's problem. Not January Trump's problem. It's optics over substance. A photo op ceasefire. But history shows this doesn't work. Look at Syria. Multiple ceasefires announced, all collapsed within weeks. Why? Because ceasefires without actual agreements are just pauses. They're not solutions. The fundamental issues remain. Eventually, someone fires a shot, and you're back to war. I give this scenario 20% chance. It's what Trump wants to try, the quick win, but his advisors know it's risky. If it fails, he owns the restart of the war. So while he might attempt it, I don't think it'll be his final strategy. 3 scenarios. One will happen. So which is most likely? And what will Trump actually do?
So 3 scenarios. Which actually happens? Based on Trump's deal-making history, Putin's red lines, and Ukraine's survival calculus, I'm putting 45% on Land-for-NATO. 35% on frozen conflict, 20% on immediate freeze. The Land-for-NATO deal is most likely because it's the only scenario where everyone gets something they desperately need. Here's how it probably plays out. January 20th, Trump takes office. February, his team starts serious negotiations, probably through intermediaries, not direct. March, massive pressure on Zelenskyy. Accept the deal or lose US aid. April 500. Either Zelenskyy agrees and the deal happens, or he refuses and we're in a stalemate. The catch? Ukraine has to agree, and that's not guaranteed. Zelenskyy might refuse to give up Ukrainian territory. His people might overthrow him if he tries. In which case, we're back to scenario 1, frozen conflict by default. But if Trump can sell it, you lost that land anyway, now get security forever. It might work. 1,000 days of war, hundreds of thousands dead, millions displaced. 3 possible endings. Land-for-NATO, frozen conflict, immediate freeze. One will happen, probably in the next 90 days. Because Trump doesn't have patience for long wars. He'll push for a deal fast, whether Ukraine is ready or not. By spring 2025, we'll know. Either Ukraine is in NATO with reduced borders, or we have a new frozen conflict splitting Europe, or Trump tries a quick ceasefire that collapses in weeks. The decision is being made right now in closed-door calls between Mar-a-Lago, the Kremlin, and Kyiv. The question isn't whether Trump wants to end the war. He does. The question is whether his deal actually solves anything, or whether we're just delaying the next war. And for the Ukrainians in bomb shelters tonight, waiting to see if their country survives, that difference is everything. Trump takes office in 11 days. By spring, Ukraine's fate is decided. For analysis of what actually happens, subscribe to Battlefield Insights. Next, Iran's nuclear countdown. What happens when they cross the red line? See you then.